All right, now we're going to review text functions. So the text functions we're going to cover, as you can see, there's a lot of them. Most commonly used ones are the ones we're going to cover. So these are the concatenate, find, left, lower, mid, proper, replace, right, search, split, trim, and upper functions. So we'll run through these quickly. So basically, so the first one we're going to cover is concatenate. And so what concatenate does is it will allow you to concatenate multiple values, multiple strings together. So what that means is it'll combine multiple strings. So as you can see, I typed a broken sentence with 5 words. Each word has its own cell in its own column. So if we wanted to combine all of these sentences, how would we do it? So one way to do it is the concatenate function. So that simply means you type concatenate, we tell it what cells we want to combine, and there we go. So as you can see, it has now combined all of the cells together without adding any spaces. So now we need to figure out how do we add spaces. So so there's 2 ways we can do this. So one, you can see that there's a space after A because I put it there in the cell. If I remove that, these 2 things combine. Here, let me turn this back on. So same thing with here. Put an extra space on is. If I remove that, this all comes together. So what we can do is we want to add spaces here. So how do we do that? So one thing we could do is instead of concatenating each of these cells right away, let's concatenate A1 and then let's add a space. B1, let's add a space. C1, another space. D1, another space, and we should be good. And boom, there we have it. It's a perfect sentence. As you can see, what we're doing here is we're combining the contents of cell A1, adding another space, which is why there's a space between the S after this, and the I in is. Then we're adding it to is, adding another space, adding A, adding another space, adding D, adding another space, and finally we're ending with E. So that is how you use the concatenate function. Now let's say we wanted to make the above sentence uppercase. So one tool that you can use is called upper, where you pass in a argument. So in this case, we'll make it this sentence. Close the parentheses, hit enter, and it turns the entire sentence into uppercase. You can do the same thing with lower, where you take a certain string, and voila. This can be really, really useful if you have a bunch of data that's just horribly garbled and you need to fix it. So another cool tool is called proper. And so let's say you have a big list of all lowercase sentences. So in that case, you can do proper, which will turn a lowercase sentence like this into one that is properly capitalized. It capitalizes the first letter of every word. So as you can see, there are all these different tools that we can use to figure out and to fix messy, unclean, unorganized data that we may be working with. Now let's say we wanted to let's say that this was all lowercase, and so we have a broken sentence here. So what we could do, and this is getting into nesting, which we'll cover more in our last video on functions, which is the next video. But if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to concatenate here. Let's say we wanted to concatenate all of these, and we wanted to properly capitalize it. How do we do that? So I'm going to show you. So we have, as you can see, this is the formula that we used earlier. So we're concatenating, we're combining all of these cells, and we put spaces in between each one of these. Now, another thing we can do is we can make this word, this first value, proper. So what that means is we're making that it will take the first, the word in this cell, no matter what it is, and it'll capitalize it. But as you can see, we're doing this function, we're pulling off this function inside of another formula, inside of another function. So what happens when we hit enter here? There we go. We've perfectly capitalized it. That will not matter if this is the word chili, alligator, whatever it is. It will turn this first word into a properly capitalized word. And you can see that we're doing that with a function inside of another function. So that's what's known as a nested function. Next, we're going to cover how you can use these nested functions to perform multiple operations on a bunch of data that you may have in a spreadsheet. So we'll show you how you can use this to pull together different blocks of text like we have here, and how you can format it all properly so that it looks like a normal, nice sentence like we have here. So stay tuned, we'll get to that next.